Hi, Joe Moore here. Good day, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the case is, whatever day it is, rather. I don't want to go ahead and start babbling on about that. Hopefully you're having a good day and you've had a good week so far. I certainly have. Things have been pretty good, the usual amount and the usual sort of busy, but things have been good otherwise. In any case, I figured I'd probably dedicate this whole recording to a particular story of mine, and you could probably call this the first actual story time of any of these recordings entirely. So let's go on and see what happens. You're probably going to be in for real something here. I might be probably completely lost in thought, though, over the course of it, trying to figure out the best way to give it to you. But as it is a bit of a long story, so I might be spending the whole recording on it. But in any case, so this is probably just the experience I had not too long ago, mainly regarding something that I had planned for my mom. So, long story short, it's all concerning a gift that my sister, my younger brother, and I had all planned on getting for her, and this actually it's been probably now a couple months overdue. It ended up being a couple months overdue. It actually finished. It finally did come by last week. But I'll give you more details in just a sec. So let me get right into the actual meat of the story. So basically, my mom's birthday is in early March, and we said we wanted to get her something really nice this year. It wasn't a particularly fancy number or a number that people would call a milestone. I mean, every year technically really is a milestone because you turn a year older. But, you know, for those significant numbers like the ones that end in 0 or in 5 or, you know, things like that. Anyway, so we planned mid-February that we said we wanted to get her some gift. It's like a one of those fragrant body lotions or body creams or something like. I forgot exactly what it was called. I'd probably have to pull up the product to find it. But in any case, so we get her this. We place an order for whatever we wanted. I believe it was 3. There was a promo for buy 2 get 1 free. So we said we'll take all 3. She usually doesn't finish them very quickly, so this should last for a fairly long time. So anyway, we get this order. We place this order in, and the email comes. The confirmation email comes, and it says, "Okay, your package is expected to come around in a couple weeks." So by that time, it was probably, I think, the anticipated arrival date was just before March. So by that time, then we'd still have an opportunity to wrap it and make it look nice and pretty. So that time rolls around, and we still haven't received anything. And I'm thinking, it's getting closer, and I was getting rather concerned. I was thinking, what's going to be happening now? Is it arriving? And then I checked the site again, and sure enough, the tracking status was changed. The estimate arrival date changed as well. So it was pushed further into March, and it would have already been after my mom's birthday. So we said, you know what, it's okay, better late than never. We'll see what happens. So that date comes around and nothing still arrives, and I said, okay, maybe give it a day or two, because sometimes the destination, the address that I send the package to, it takes about maybe a day or two before it actually arrives, or maybe it would have arrived, but I would have never received any sort of notification about it arriving, because it really varies. But not to say that there's anything wrong with my company or with the delivery service or anything, but it was just merely circumstance. So anyway, I think it was already by the end of the month, that time arrived, and still that package never came. So I decided I'd go call up the company, and I gave them a call and said, hey, I've been waiting for my package. The tracking site isn't giving me any more information. It says it was already shipped or something. And sure enough, the customer service clerk goes and tells me, oh yeah, your package has been lost in transit, it appears. And but then after some further investigation, then it says, oh, hang on, you didn't even specify shipping address. It's just sitting in our warehouse for this whole time. And I'm thinking, you know, how is that possible? Because we put all the information in that we needed, and now you're going to tell me that it's my fault for not putting in the address, and it could have been a back-end issue for all we know. But thankfully, anyway, the clerk said, I can reimburse you for the amount and place another order, and so I accepted and said, sure, we'll go ahead and do that. Hang on. I thought my recorder shut off for a second. It must be all the movement that I'm making. This unit's apparently very sensitive to sound. Anyway, I don't want to make too much sound that's going to take away from the story, so we'll carry forward. So the clerk says, I'll reimburse you and I'll place another order, and this time this will have an address and it will go through. That was a lot of wind. Sorry about that. It's like every time I have to go and blow in some fashion like this, exhale deeply or whatever you want to call it. I guess I'm just going to have to reposition this somehow. Anyway, back to the story. I don't want to keep going on tangents. This is not the clip to do tangents. In any case, so I agreed to that and I said, sure. Then she says it should come in like the next 3 to 7 business days, the typical sort of arrangement there. So orders placed, I got reimbursed a few days later, so that came out really nicely. But now you're talking already, this is late March, so she's certainly going to receive her gift a lot later than her original birth date. So it's like at least over a month. So this new package was anticipated to arrive early April. So then we wait, the time comes around again, sure enough, and then this time I checked the tracking site because somehow the package still hadn't arrived on the day. I gave it another day and it still didn't arrive. So by that time I go to check the site and see what happens. This time it says a shipment attempt was made, but the package was undeliverable, so it was returned to sender. And I'm thinking, I'd never received any notification of the package arriving. The same address was used, all the exact same information had been placed in, and yet apparently no attempt was made. Now, see, the layout of the way where I'm at right now, company-wise, is that it's not the most accessible, obviously for good reason, because you've got sort of the way it's laid out is that there are a series of driveways and entrances coming off from the sort of another little alleyway that you travel to enter my workplace by car. Two of them require a turn, like you have to pass through the swinging gates. Those there's a term for those gates. I forgot what they're called. The ones with the long arms. They usually look like poles, and then they go up and then they go down. Not a crossing gate. It's one of those kinds of gates. Anyway, and then there's one passage that is for general purpose. Now, see, the thing is, if you're in delivery service, you'd just be passing through the general passageway, stopping over, and then walking to pick up. Or I think there's even special permission for you to enter there. So for some weird reason, I'm thinking, normally most services have been able to get in, and they've been able to give us the packages and stuff, and we usually get them even if it's a day or two later. We still get them. For this one, though, apparently it seemed like at the time no attempt was made even to try and get in. They probably saw the whole lot and said, "Nope, I'm not getting in there," and they decided to send it back to the warehouse location. Now I go call up again and I say, "Okay, look, this is the second order I've placed. I've looked at the email. It says return to sender." And I'm thinking, can you please reissue this and send it back out again? They say, because you're in Canada, we can't do that. So we're going to have to cancel the order, and you're going to have to place another one. And I'm thinking, oh boy, here we go again. And I'm wondering, if I order this up one more time and it still doesn't arrive, then we may as well give this as a gift for her next birthday or Mother's Day or Christmas or something like that. But, I said, all right, I'll go place the order. But this time I decided I would ship it to our house address. And sure enough, then all the information was put in, and I made sure, knowing from the first one, that all the information was indeed put into the order. I checked the order, everything is there, all the numbers are good. And interestingly, the price this time for the same 3 items, which thankfully were still in stock, was actually lower than it originally was. So we basically actually saved a few dollars. It was sort of between, it went from, it was like one end of a certain, I forgot what the tens place was. I don't know if it was 30 or 40 or something like that, but one was on the lower end, or rather, let me rephrase this, sorry. Originally, it was on the high end of that region of 10, and then now it's lower. So let's say if it was at 38 before, now it became 32. So in any case, I agree, and I say, okay, sure, we'll hope this order finally makes it. There should be no way that this one does not come to us, because it had to have come. I mean, normally when it goes to individual residential addresses, then usually they're not as hard to try and pass through. So then, not too long after that, I come to work one day, and then the security calls and says, "Hey, you got some mail here for you." So I go over and look, and you wouldn't believe this. For some odd and interesting reason, one of the packages there was not the first order I placed, but the second order that was apparently returned to sender. So I'm sitting there thinking, that can't be right. Don't tell me I read the email wrong. And I checked the email, and sure enough, it said, yeah, undeliverable package returned to sender. And I'm wondering, how is this one here? So when I go to open the package, I check the invoice, and it sure enough was the second order I placed. I was like, the first one surely got lost in transit, so that was no problem at all. But and it couldn't have been the third one, or this most recent one rather, because this most recent one I had placed to be sent to my own house instead of my workplace. So this one certainly could not have been that one. Like, they couldn't have confused the billing and the shipping addresses. So then I check, and I'm thinking, how is it possible? I didn't bother asking any more questions. I'm guessing maybe because the thing is, I imagine that if the clerks probably noticed that it actually meant sent, if they reread the status on my order and they say, "Oh, no, sir, it's actually been sent. Just wait a bit and check again to see if it's actually arrived there," and they'd give you that information to tell you so that they would avoid over shipping you or double shipping the quantities. But sure enough, they didn't. They just said, "Okay, well, we can credit you back for that order, and then if you want to place another one, go ahead." So I basically got 3 free products from this company. Now, obviously, it wasn't anything illegal. It probably just slipped through, and the statuses were wrong. Some kind of maybe system miscommunication, whatever. Whatever the case is, hey, we still got 3 products. So 6 total for the price of 3. And I was thinking, oh, this is actually much better than we were asking for. And it was already about early, almost mid-April by this time. So I said, why don't we just give it as a Mother's Day present? I even told my sister, but she said, you know what? I want to give the whole thing. So we ended up, and then we wanted to see, okay, let's see if they noticed that the third shipment would go through, and they actually agreed to the third shipment. And sure enough, a few days later, here comes the third shipment right to our doorstep. And so it was interesting at that time, and we, sure enough, ended up giving my mom double for the cheaper price of just half of it. So I said, I guess it kind of paid off that we waited. But also, I mean, I could have totally given a lot of grief to the customer service reps, but I sort of told myself, it's just probably some kind of back-end error. It certainly couldn't be a problem with the customer service reps because they're just there to answer questions and facilitate concerns to the other departments. So I'm not usually one personally for giving too much grief to the customer service reps. And I mean, it only makes sense because, especially, I mean, I understand, especially for something that you lose money on or lose time, or, you're waiting for something to arrive at a certain time, it never arrived, or basically the company not keeping their promise with you to provide, adequate or satisfactory or even, pleasant service or something, or to be able to give you the sort of whatever you expected or anticipated to receive. Where was I getting with that point, actually? Well, in any case, I guess the moral of it all was, I mean, and this is more of a hidden detail. Well, 2 things. One, I guess patience really did pay off because I certainly didn't want to try and make it seem like, we were mad customers trying to go off and whatever. But, of course, to suggest and to tell them, hey, is there any way to notify your customers that, let's say for the first shipment I had, if the address isn't showing, then maybe there should have been some kind of, a checking method to send us an email to say, hey, there's no shipping address we've noticed here. Let's say, like, if the warehouse didn't notice, then someone could have emailed. But again, it could be a back end issue, so I wouldn't be one to complain all too much. But stuff like that. So it's more of just casual versions of constructive criticism that I try to ease into the conversation. I'd ask them more in the form of, questions instead of comments and saying, hey, next time, why don't you try doing this? Or why did this happen? Why didn't you do this instead? One of those sorts of things. I just give them, hey, did you happen to try this and whatever, and see what the response is? Of course, if the customer service rep is already bad enough, then I wouldn't see, I could probably see why the customer would be really mad, because if the rep is giving you grief, then naturally you'd probably want to give it right back to them, or stuff like that. It just doesn't become a very pleasant conversation. But I find that, if you sort of remain in the best and the most, I guess, professional or kind way, I'd probably put it that way. But, if you kind of keep your mentality to that, I think that would really help you to see, and probably the customer service rep or whoever you're talking to in general, to understand, this is the situation. I might be angry internally, but I want to try and see if I can get this resolved, because and it's really true. When you decide to try and get at someone, or retaliate, or try to really genuinely seem like a mad customer, at the same time you might not be seeing something that the customer service rep might be seeing. I mean, of course, in some cases, again, it might just be the rep trying to mess around with you, but in most cases, there would be a solution. But it probably is just sort of out of the scope of view of someone who has a bit of a narrower sight, or a more shallow sight, as a result of, getting mad at someone or trying to vent anger. Oh, I mean, actually venting anger kind of does help you de-stress, because you let someone know what the issue is. But I guess it's just a matter of interpretation, because many people and everybody would probably interpret things differently. So probably not the customer service rep would not be the best person to vent your anger out to. But I'd probably say, if you ever are experiencing anything like any customer service related issues, I'd probably definitely just keep calm. It may seem easier said than done, but whenever you feel like you're about to want to toss a few words, just pretend as if you want to try and get the conversation going. To think more about, just take it easy. You may have to just take a big breath, literally or figuratively, and then just try to see if you can widen your perspective by just working it out and asking to see what happened here and there. Of course, you'd have to probably have extra patience if the customer service rep or whoever the receiving end was causing the trouble. But, the last thing you'd want to do is to leave a negative rapport with these people. Because if you intentionally did that, then, well, I guess that's basically called trying to hold a grudge or maintain some beef with someone, And at the end of the day, it isn't really the greatest thing to do, and it becomes probably silly at a point. But anyway, point aside, all of that said and done, that was like a very, very long, ranting moral side of the story. But at the end of the day, long story short, TLDR, whatever you want to call it, I got the packages. So anyway, that's the story I had for you for this particular recording. And yeah, I mean, probably not my greatest storytelling, only because it just seemed like I was all over the place with how it went. If you were genuinely confused with what I said for the past, let me see, for the past 10-ish minutes. Oh, I thought I saw. Oh no, 18 minutes, not 10. 18 minutes. I missed the dash because I'm looking at my recorder to see how much time has passed telling you the story and all the other information. And I look and I see, hang on a second, is that 18 or 10? But anyway, regardless, hopefully within this past, you can round it up to 20-ish minutes of time, you were somewhat entertained or bored or whatever. If you wanted to try and attain or accomplish any of those things by listening to this recording of mine, then, well, props to you. Congrats. In any case, though, thank you so much, though, for dropping by and listening in, if you've made it this far. But nonetheless, hey, to be completely honest, thank you for tuning into this and for listening and for dropping by and for your support. Again, if you have any suggestions or things you want to hear me do or things you don't want to hear me do or things you want me to do more or less of, or, just genuinely say, Jomar, I loved that, or Jomar, I hated that, or disliked it, or this is the worst piece of audio I've ever heard, or this is a good piece of audio, or the best piece of audio. Again, whatever it is, don't hesitate to leave me a line, drop me a line, do whatever it is, because I really appreciate any forms of commentary, just to help, and I guess it would help shape future such recordings. As I always say as a disclaimer at the end of all these videos, or these, I guess they're videos containing recordings, if there's anything you want to see in the future, just don't hesitate to let me know. So, until the next recording, I will probably catch you later. Take it easy.